You look like you're being taken to be executed, Liar's sister, Mika said, smirking. Liar gave his sister the blandest look he could manage, standing tense in his tailored velvet suit. That's because I am, he deadpanned, tugging at the collar like it personally offended him. This thing itches so bad. Just try not to scream this time, she said sweetly, fixing his collar. He frowned and hissed under his breath, if I scream, it'll be because an alpha tried to sniff me again. Their mother's voice rang from the hallway. Liar, the carriage is waiting, don't embarrass us tonight. He rolled his eyes before shouting back, coming mother. He wasn't even in preheat, he was in full heat. Not that his dear parents cared. They'd pumped him full of scent-suppressing perfume. Tonight's event was the palace's spring banquet. A grand political gathering of noble houses, according to the invitation. Translation: drunk alphas, scheming betas, and omegas paraded like prize hens. Liar had no intention of being anyone's hen. The palace was absurdly large and loud. Nobles were everywhere, already tipsy on royal wine. Liar stood near the champagne table, and he downed another drink. Omegas like you should not scowling, someone purred behind him. Alphas like you should not be able to reproduce, he replied sweetly without turning. A beta server giggled as he passed, and the alpha stormed off angrily. Why were alphas so emotional? Liar thought as he downed another glass of champagne and took one more. And then another. Some minutes later, he began feeling his skin getting hot, the scent suppressants weakening, and that meant trouble. He needed to get out of here before it gets worse. Just as he turned to leave, someone bumped into him. Correction, slammed into him. He staggered back and strong hands gripped his waist. His very tingly, heat-sensitive waist. Watch where you're, he began, but the words died in his throat the moment he looked up. That glare, that aura, it was him. Alpha King Kalin. His scent hit Liar like a hammer. No amount of heat-suppressant perfume could stand up to that. They are getting way too thick. Sh**t, Liar mumbled, already sweating. The king raised a brow. You're in heat. You're drunk, Liar shot back, suddenly panicked. His instincts screamed at him to either fight, run, or rip this king's clothes off. And unfortunately, the third option was sounding way too appealing. He bolted. A few nobles gasped as Liar pushed past them, running so fast up the spiral staircase, nearly tripping on his own damn shoes. He needed somewhere cold, somewhere private. He kicked open the door at the end of the corridor, found a marble bathroom that looked clean enough and immediately threw up into the sink. I hate my life, he groaned. He rinsed his mouth, flashed cold water on his face, yanked off his jacket, and stumbled into the attached shower just long enough to cool his body down. After some minutes, he felt slightly better. He found a towel and wrapped it around his waist. His head was still fuzzy, but at least the heat wasn't making him see double anymore. He opened the door, still drying his hair with one hand as he walked back into the main room. And then he stopped, because someone was standing in the bedroom. Someone tall, shirtless, and unmistakably royal. Liar's entire soul left his body. King Kalin stood there, a glass of whiskey in one hand. You're in my room, he said flatly. Liar stared, frozen. Wait, your room? No, this was just some random bathroom. I thought this was a guest suite. You thought my private royal quarters were a guest suite, the king repeated, lifting a brow. I panicked. Kalin set his whiskey down and walked toward him. And now you're dripping wet. In my towel. In my room. It was an accident, was it? The king asked darkly. Because your heat is still leaking through that towel. Liar's brain screamed. His body didn't move. The king was suddenly too close. Again. Why do you smell so good? Kalin murmured, more to himself than anyone. I'm leaving, Liar yelped, reaching for the doorknob. But he was too slow. Kalin caught his wrist and pressed him back against the wall again. The towel slipped a bit. Liar didn't even know who kissed first. 1 second he was pinned to the king's bedroom wall in nothing but a towel. Next second it was like they were sucking the life out of each other's mouths. Okay, that's not a good way to describe it. His omega instincts didn't even hesitate anymore. They wanted him. The alcohol in his blood made everything feel floaty and dizzy. The towel hit the floor, and Kalin immediately broke the kiss and stumbled back, trying not to look at Liar. Goddess, I'm sorry for just kissing you. I'm a little drunk and your heat is distracting. The king apologizes and tries stepping away. But Liar, who was drunk and dangerously hot, managed to pull on the Alpha's wrist before he could step away and said in a small voice, "Please, Alpha. I want this. I consent, okay?" Kalin stilled for a heartbeat. His voice was rough. "Are you sure?" Liar nodded, barely able to breathe. "Yes. So just shut up and take me." That was all it took. The cold, untouchable Alpha King became anything but cold. And that night, the palace walls definitely heard things they weren't supposed to. The next morning, Liar woke up like he'd been hit by a royal carriage. His head throbbed and something very heavy was draped over his waist. He looked down. It was a muscular arm attached to a completely naked Alpha King. Liar nearly screamed. Instead, he moved like a stealthy ninja trying not to set off an alarm, slowly sliding Kalin's arm off and reaching for the nearest rope. His legs ached, and his heat had subsided. He was tiptoeing toward the door when a groggy voice spoke behind him. "Wait!" Liar flinched, turning around slowly. Kalin had sat up, rubbing the back of his neck. His face wasn't as icy as usual. He looked like a man nursing both a hangover and the awkward weight of last night. The Alpha started. "About last night. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was drunk. I wasn't supposed to touch you," he said. "I lost control. I should have taken you somewhere safe and left you alone." Liar blinked. "What? You were in heat. I'm the king. That shouldn't have happened." Liar's thoughts were still scrambled. His heat was gone, but something else was starting to form in his chest. Was it regret or shame? No, it was panic. "We should pretend nothing happened," he said suddenly. Kalin looked at him. Seriously, Liar rushed on, tugging on his shirt. "You were drunk. I was drunk. You're the Alpha King. I'm just some Omega. It was a mistake. Let's just pretend it didn't happen." Kalin blinked. "Wait, but..." Liar cut him off. "I said pretend, Your Majesty." Liar forced a smile and wrapped the rope tighter. "No hard feelings. No scandal. No follow-up. We go back to being strangers." He reached the door. Kalin stood, frowning. He was about to say something, but Liar beat him to it. "Thanks for the hospitality." And he left before the king could get a single word in. Later that morning, Liar was back home. Liar burst through the front door and headed straight for the kitchen. "Morning sunshine, Mika," his sister sang. Liar was not ready. Mika leaned against the doorframe with the smuggest grin ever. "I heard the banquet was wild last night," she said. "You didn't come home. You didn't answer your phone and you're limping." "I am not limping," Liar lied as he shuffled past her. "Well, you look like you got hit by lightning and a sex god at the same time." He froze. "That's very specific." "Oh please," she narrowed her eyes. "You reek of heat suppressants and something else." Their mother walked in, perfectly dressed for brunch, and eyed him with the sharp instincts of a nosy mother. "Liar, what's that scent?" "I don't know. I'm going to my room," Liar said quickly and bolted to his room. It was 2 weeks after the banquet, and Liar tried to go back to normal. He showed up to work at his work, a boutique where he styled influencers and nobles. Everything would have been fine, except his body was being weird. "Okay, what the hell is going on with me?" Liar muttered, sitting cross-legged on his bed, surrounded by half-eaten spicy noodles and a hot water bottle clutched to his stomach. He'd been nauseous all day. His scent was acting up and his moods were all over the place. Yesterday he cried watching a shampoo commercial, and his sister was onto him. "Liar," Mika sang from the hallway. "I bought pastries." "No thanks, I'm vomiting." "Wait, what?" She barged into his room without knocking as always. "You've been acting weird for 2 weeks. What's wrong? You're pale. You're cranky." Wait. She narrowed her eyes. "What?" Liar clutched his blanket like it could save him. "You had sex." Liar didn't respond, but his flushed cheeks gave it away. "You had sex," Mika repeated. "Would you shut up before Mom hears you?" Mika looked absolutely delighted. "You, when, how?" Liar's soul left his body. "I'm not doing this with you." "Do I know them?" "No." "Was it at the banquet?" "Maybe." Mika's eyes widened. "Liar, was it someone important?" "No," Liar blurted, then winced. "Sort of." Mika leaned forward like she was about to pass out from the drama. "Oh my God, was it the Alpha King?" "Shut up." Mika fell to the floor laughing. I knew it. You came home that day with an afterglow. I was sweaty. And now you're puking every morning and crying at birds. Liar flopped onto his back dramatically. Do not say what you're about to say. Mika grinned. You might be pregnant. Ooh. Liar rolled his eyes. Mika threw a pillow at him. You might be carrying royal sperm, idiot. I hate this. She pulled out her phone. I'm ordering a pregnancy test. No, 3, just to be sure. What if mom finds out? She still thinks you've never kissed anyone. I hadn't, until the stupid king slammed into me like a wrecking ball. You're blushing. Oh my god, you liked it. Goodbye. I'm digging a hole and never returning. An hour later, a discreet delivery guy dropped off a very suspicious brown paper bag with 3 pregnancy tests inside. Mika tossed it onto his lap. Go on. Liar stared at it with horror before walking to the bathroom. Okay. It's probably nothing, he whispered. He opened the test. And 5 minutes later, he was staring at the test in his hand, face pale as snow. To pink lines. Oh fuck me. Wait, no. That's how this happened in the first place. He stumbled out of the bathroom like a zombie. Mika was sitting cross-legged on his bed, munching popcorn. So, she asked, eyes sparkling, are you carrying a tiny royal heir or what? Liar gave her the flattest look in history. She squealed. Oh my god, you are. He quickly tried to stuff the test under a pillow, but it was too late. The bedroom door creaked open. Liar, their mom's voice called. What's all the shouting about? She stood in the doorway. Her eyes dropped to the test in Liar's hand. There was silence. Liar was already calculating how fast he could fake his own death. I can explain. He started, panicking. It's a prank. I'm holding it for a friend. I accidentally peed on it. I was drunk. It was one time. Their mom took one slow step forward. Was it the Alpha King? Liar's face burned. That's not the point. Suddenly, she gasped. And to Liar's horror, she smiled. Oh sweetie, she said with a dreamy sigh. This is the best thing that's ever happened to this family. Liar blinked. What? Do you know how powerful your baby's going to be? We're talking legendary bloodline, and he's rich. She gushed, placing both hands on her cheeks dreamily. You're happy about this. She laughed. Of course, you're going to be the first Omega consort in generations. Your grandma's ghost is probably doing cartwheels. Mika fist bumped the air. We're moving up, baby. Liar just sat there frozen. He had dreamed of many things. Becoming a stylist. Getting famous. Maybe someday getting revenge on that jerk who stole his lunch in 6th grade. But becoming a pregnant royal consort. Never on the bingo card. He buried his face in a pillow. I want to vanish. Their mom sat beside him, rubbing his back. Honey, this could be the start of something amazing. I have to go tell your dad. She quickly hurried out the door. I don't even like him, Liar muttered after his mom left. He's cold. He's arrogant. He probably already forgot me, he said. Well, you have to tell him, Mika suggested. I'm not telling him, Liar declared. He'll just think I'm trying to trap him. Or he'll just offer me a castle out of guilt. Mika popped another popcorn into her mouth. I mean, a castle sounds pretty nice. I want nothing from him. You want to have a king's baby in a 2-bedroom apartment? Mika asked. I'm not asking for his help. Then what are you going to do? I'm gonna hide. Mika blinked. From the Alpha King? Yes. Our king, who has an army, and a nose sharper than most people in this kingdom. He's not sniffing me out if I wear 5 layers of perfume. He rushed to dig through his closet for anything oversized or overscented, because hiding might be stupid, but telling the truth was probably more stupid. At the palace, Kalin sat at the edge of his bed, shirtless and still damp from just showering. He had always been composed, controlled, a king that ruled with logic, not emotion. But for the past 2 weeks, something had been off. He didn't sleep. He barely ate. And worse, his Wolf wouldn't stop pacing and growling like a caged beast. Yearning. He touched his chest. There was a tug, a pull. It was like half of him was missing. His beta guard, Nolan, stood nearby. Your Majesty, should I call the physician again? No. Kalin rose, eyes hard. This isn't an illness. Nolan hesitated. Is it about the Omega from the banquet? Kalin didn't answer, because how could he explain it? He had slept with an Omega once, one night. He'd barely even said the boy's name. But now, his scent and warmth was branded into Kalin's memory, and Kalin could feel him, but not see him, and that was driving him insane. 3 days later, a new royal banquet was announced. It was a seasonal gala, casual, for the people. It was unexpected for a banquet or ceremony to be thrown in just 2 weeks apart. But Kalin had one goal. He wanted Lyre to come. He needed to see him, to confirm, to smell what his instincts already knew. At Lyre's house, Lyre keeps refusing to go to the gala. I said no, Lyre muttered, clutching a blanket around his body even though it was clearly warm in the room. His mother smiled gently. Sweetheart, it's just a party. It's a trap. You're being dramatic. Lyre groaned and flopped onto the couch. I'll go into labor before I step foot into that palace again. His dad finally spoke up from the corner. Son, he is the Alpha King. You can't avoid him forever. I can try. His mother reached over and patted his head. Just go and talk to him. Lyre shook his head for the 1000th time. I'm not going. Okay then, his dad said softly. We won't force you. Thank you. But if the king kicks down our door, snatch you by the leg and drag you to the castle, you deal with it. Meanwhile, at the royal gala, the music swelled, guests were dancing, and the overall atmosphere was fun. But Kalin barely moved from his throne. His eyes scanned the crowd. Still no sign of him. He leaned toward Nolan. Is he here? No, your majesty. Are you sure? Nolan nodded. We checked the guest list. And we've discreetly scanned the perimeter for any Amiga scent shifts. Kalin's fists clenched. His Volf growled. He's hiding. The thought made his blood boil. But worse, it made his chest ache. The scent he craved, the presence he longed for was hiding from him. It was hours later, still at the palace banquet. King Kalin stood like a statue at the top of the grand hall. He hadn't said a word in hours. He couldn't take it anymore. He turned to his guard. Nolan. Yes, your majesty. Prepare the car. We're going to him. They arrived at Lyre's house 30 minutes later. A knock slammed against the door like thunder. Lyre blinked, startled from his spot on the couch. He was mid-chewing a pickle dipped in peanut butter when Mika peeked out the window and gasped. Oh, Lyre. He looked up, sleepy and in sweats. What? I think your baby daddy's here. What? Before he could move, the door swung open with a boom. King Kalin stepped inside, eyes dark and sharp, and locked only on Lyre. Everyone else in the room froze. Lyre stood slowly, heart jumping into his throat. You can't just barge in like that. You're pregnant. Lyre froze. His hands instinctively curled over his stomach. You can't prove that. I don't need to. Kalin's voice was low. I can feel it. Lyre backed up a step. That doesn't mean you get to barge in and start acting like that. I'm not here to argue. Then what are you here for? Kalin's eyes burned. You're carrying my heir, he said simply. You belong in the palace. Lyre's mouth dropped open. Excuse me. I'm not asking, Kalin continued, stepping closer. As the Alpha King, I am demanding. You're not safe here. You're coming with me. Lyre's voice raised. I'm not your prisoner. You're not, Kalin said, voice dropping low. You're mine. That one sentence made Mika squeak behind her hands like she was watching a drama unfold live. Lyre's breath caught as Kalin stepped forward slowly. Pack your things, he said quietly. You're moving into the royal suite. I'm not one of your little servants you can order around. You're not a servant, Kalin said. You're the bearer of my child. That means you're everything. Lyre stared at him, torn between punching him and melting. You're cold, Lyre muttered, voice shaking. You're rude and cold and emotionally constipated. Kalin took one last step forward, closing the distance between them. And then his hand reached out, gently resting over Lyre's stomach. You're warm, he whispered. The contact sent something sparking through both of them. Lyre's knees nearly buckled. I don't want to fight with you, Kalin murmured. I want to take care of you, both of you. Lyre looked away, cheeks red. You're bossy. Kalin smirked faintly. And you're stubborn. I haven't even decided if I want to keep it. The king's face darkened for a half-second, and his grip on Lyre's wrist tightened just slightly. You will. Lyre scowled. That's not your choice. I know, Kalin said, voice gentler now. But I hope you'll let me be part of it. The air in the apartment felt thick. I need you at the palace, Kalin said again, voice low. You're not safe out here, Lyre. I can't protect the baby if you're not close. I'll think about it, Liar said sharply, raising a hand like a stop sign. Okay, I'll think about it. Kalin nodded slowly. There was a long pause. Liar shifted from foot to foot and crossed his arms tightly over his chest, his hoodie riding up a little to show his still flat belly. He noticed the king's eyes flicker down briefly before he caught himself and looked away, polite as ever. Stop looking at me like that, Liar said, glaring. I'm not looking at you in any way. You're looking at me like I'm going to break. Kalen's eyes snapped back to his. You're not going to break, he said softer. But that doesn't mean I won't try to catch you if you fall. Liar's stomach fluttered in the worst possible way. No, not doing this again. He took a step back. You need to leave now. Kalin didn't move. Liar, you're still in my house, he said through clenched teeth, cheeks flaming. The alpha blinked. Slowly, Liar pointed toward the door. Out. Kalin looked at him, gaze lingering, and then he stepped closer. Liar's breath caught. What are you doing? Kalin didn't answer. He reached out, gently tugging Liar's hoodie down so it covered his stomach again. His hand didn't touch skin, just the edge of the fabric. I'm going, Kalin finally said, voice lower than before, but I'll be back. The alpha turned and walked toward the door. His presence was still heavy, even when he was fully gone, and the surprisingly still working door clicked shut behind him. Liar stood frozen for a moment, then groaned and fell onto the couch. Mika poked her head out from the hallway. Sue, was that sex tension or murder tension? Shut up. Liar buried his face in the throw pillow and screamed. It was a few minutes after the king left, and now, Liar was pacing. Mika sat on the couch wide-eyed with popcorn again, and his parents stood near the door. I told you this would happen, his dad said, arms folded, looking entirely smug. Did I or did I not say the Alpha King will come find you? Kicking down the door. You said he'd come storming in here like a mafia boss, Liar shouted. You said he'd snatch me by the leg and drag me to the castle. I mean, I was only off by a little, his dad muttered. His mom placed a hand on her hip, eyes fixed directly on Liar. Liar, seeing the look on his mother's face, shook his head rapidly. Mom, I am not moving into that oversized mansion. He's trying, his mom said gently, walking over. I saw his face when he placed his hand on your stomach, Liar. He was being protective. Liar looked away. He's scary. His mom cupped his cheeks. You're strong. And you're smart. But this baby, you can't do this alone. He bit his lip. Fine, he muttered. His dad nodded like he'd just won the lottery. That's my boy. The next night, the knock on the door came at 9 p.m. sharp. Liar stared at the door and refused to move. Maybe if he stayed perfectly still, the king would just go away. He's here, isn't he? His dad muttered from the couch, sipping tea. There was another knock. Liar stomped toward the door and yanked it open. King Kalin stood there. His expression was still unreadable, calm, cold, and in control. Only his eyes gave away the relief he felt when he saw Liar standing there. I'm here, he said simply. Kalen's eyes dropped to Liar's stomach, which was still flat and hidden by his oversized sweater. Are you coming with me? Liar hesitated. Then he sighed sharply and stepped aside. Fine. Few hours later, his mom wiped her eyes and hugged him tight, whispering, Behave. And don't pick fights with royalty, unless he starts it. His dad just nodded. Don't forget to eat, and drink more water than soda. Mika shoved a stuffed bear into his arms. This one's named Minikin. He's here to remind you what to avoid at night. I hate you, Liar said, clutching it anyway. I love you too. On the way to the palace, the ride was quiet. Kalin didn't speak. He didn't stare. He sat with perfect posture and kept his distance. When they arrived at the palace gates, the guards bowed immediately, and the grand palace doors opened like something out of a movie. Kalin led him in, speaking quietly to the staff. No one looked at Liar too long. It was like a bubble of silent respect wrapped around the king. And now, Liar was inside it too. Later on, Kalin led Liar to a door. This is your room, Kalin said as he opened a massive double door. Liar blinked. Wait, this is your room. He remembered this room. The king nodded. Yes. Liar crossed his arms and stood stiffly in the doorway. I'm not sleeping in the same room as you, he snapped. You'll have the bed. I'll take the couch. There's a couch. Kalin turned back and gave a nod. A big couch. Large enough for me. Not ideal. But I want you close. You and the baby. Liar's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You can't just order me into your room like I'm a pet, he grumbled, walking in reluctantly. Kalin watched him. You're not a pet. I better not be. You're the bearer of my child. That makes you important. His eyes trailed over Liar, gaze intense. Liar's breath caught in his throat for a second, but he waved it off and flopped onto the bed. Fine, but if you snore, I'm setting the sheets on fire. Kalin smirked very faintly. Duly noted. Later that night, Liar lay in the absurdly soft bed, staring at the ceiling. Kalin was on the couch across the room. A book was in his hands, but he hadn't turned a page in 20 minutes. Liar knew he was watching. Why aren't you reading? Liar asked finally. Kalin glanced up. I'm thinking. About what? The king's eyes met his across the room. You. Liar's throat dried instantly. Okay. I'm turning the lights off now. Kalin didn't stop him, but as the lights went dark, Liar's heart thudded a little too loud in his chest. Liar woke up to a violent urge to throw up. His eyes snapped open. 1 second he was in the oversized luxury bed, and the next he was running. He barely made it to the bathroom before he fell to his knees at the marble toilet and threw up what felt like his entire digestive system. You, he groaned. This is it. This is how I go. Death by my baby. Are you all right? A voice said from outside the bathroom door, startling him. I'm fine. Do not come in here, Kalin. Too late. The door creaked open and the Alpha King stepped inside, hair slightly messy from sleep. Even half-woken, the man still looked like a damn Calvin Klein billboard. You look pale, Kalin said, walking in further. I'll get water. I said I'm fine. Liar turned to glare at him, but instantly turned back around and dry-heaved again. Kalin was beside him in seconds, kneeling silently as he reached for Liar's hair. If you touch my hair, I will vomit on you. Understood. Instead of touching it, Kalin reached for a soft towel nearby and held it up to shield Liar's face. Liar wanted to cry. He realized he was shaking. I hate this, he muttered, voice raw. Kalin said nothing, but his hand rubbed gently against Liar's back soothingly. Liar didn't know how long they stayed like that. Eventually the nausea faded, and he collapsed sideways against the wall with a tired groan. Kalin stood and walked over to the sink. He came back with a glass of water and crouched again, holding it out carefully. Liar took it and rinsed his mouth before taking a sip. Later that morning, Liar was wearing one of Kalin's oversized t-shirts because none of the palace servants stocked maternity wear on such short notice. Liar glared at the breakfast tray. There were 3 kinds of sliced fruits, freshly baked scones, eggs cooked exactly to his preference, plus a selection of teas and something called Royal Omega Nutrient Tonic, which smelled like vanilla. You people are insane, he muttered after the palace butler bowed and vanished. I had them prepare light food since your stomach's still sensitive, Kalin said calmly from his spot at the small dining table in the chambers. Well, look at you, pretending to be considerate. Did you threaten the kitchen staff to behave? I only threaten people when I don't get what I want. Oh, and what is it you want, Your Majesty? You. And you healthy? Liar froze with a fruit halfway to his mouth. Kalin didn't even blink. You're annoying, Liar muttered, shoving the whole fruit in his mouth to hide his pink cheeks. After breakfast, a pair of servants came in with 2 massive garment bags. What is this? Liar narrowed his eyes. Your maternity wear, Kalin said simply. Liar opened one bag and immediately closed it again. You got me gowns, like flowy silk princess dresses. They're specially designed Omega maternity robes, Kalin said, for comfort. Comfort, Liar snapped. You want me walking around looking like a fairy godmother? Kalin didn't smile, but his eyes was filled with amusement. You'll wear them to be safe. From what exactly? You're carrying the air. That makes you a target. Liar blinked. Target. Kalin stood slowly, eyes dark. Royal pregnancies mature fast. The baby will develop at twice the rate of a regular one. Your body will change quickly, and others will notice. He stepped close, and Liar's back was leaned further into the seat he was sitting on. You can sass me all you want, Kalin said quietly, but you'll wear the robe, or I will personally tie it onto you. Liar swallowed. Kinky. Kalin smirked. Careful. The mating bond is starting to form. Liar's breath hitched. He tried to deny the mating bond, but he felt it too, a strange warmth in his chest when Kalin got too close. His body wanted to reach out and feel him. "I hate this," Liar whispered. Kalin's smirk vanished disappointingly. "I know." Later that day, Liar was enjoying the sun for once, sitting under the shade in one of the side gardens, when someone walked past and winked at him. He blinked. It was a tall palace knight, blonde, flirty, definitely an alpha. He looked about 25. "Lovely day, isn't it?" the knight said, stepping closer. "Didn't know we had such charming guests around the palace." Liar narrowed his eyes. Hi." The knight chuckled. "I'm Halric. If you need a tour around the palace, or a break." He was cut off. He won't be needing a break. The air dropped several degrees. Kalin stood behind the knight, a sharp, polite smile on his lips. Halric immediately stepped back. "Your Majesty, you're dismissed. Permanently." Halric turned green. "Wait, no. Your Majesty. Leave," the king said simply, his eyes daring Halric to speak. Halric immediately scurried away. Liar frowned. "Why did you do that? He didn't even do anything." "Would you rather I let him sniff your scent and figure out you're pregnant with my child first?" Kalin asked coolly. "You make a fair point, but dismissing him permanently was too harsh." Liar rolled his eyes. He got up and started walking toward the room, the king immediately following behind him. The next day was their first doctor's appointment. The palace doctor gestured for Liar to sit on the exam table as her assistants ran crystal scanners over his belly. Liar flinched. "That's cold. Sorry about that. You'll get used to it," the doctor said. Kalin stood nearby, arms folded. The doctor finally said, eyes narrowing. "As expected, the fetus is developing at double rate. You'll be showing within days." "Days," Liar shrieked. "Relax, it's safe," she added, "but you'll need extra care. I'll schedule weekly checkups. And if either of you feels the bond flare too strongly, let me know. It may lead to heat cycles." Liar turned bright red. "Heat cycles." Kalin simply turned to the doctor and said, "Understood." Liar wanted to punch something, probably the mating bond itself. After the appointment, they were now at their bedroom. Kalin hadn't said much since the appointment, but his eyes kept tracking Liar like he was some rare treasure or prey. "You've been quiet," Liar muttered, avoiding his gaze. "I'm trying to give you space." Liar snorted. "Since when?" "So, you don't want me to give you space?" Kalin asked, smirking. "Wait, that's not what I meant," Liar tried to say, but Kalin already started walking toward him until they were face to face. Liar's breath caught. There it was again. He could feel a warmth under his skin. "I can feel you," Liar whispered, "even when I don't want to." "That's the bond," Kalin murmured. "It started the night we mated." "You mean when we were both drunk and stupid?" Kalin nodded. "Our souls wanted each other that night. And now they recognized each other." His fingers brushed Liar's wrist and Liar shivered. A rush of heat fluttered down his spine. Kalin was his alpha, his mate. No, he didn't want that. Didn't want to belong to someone. Especially not someone who ruled the kingdom like it was a business deal. He stepped back. The bond pulled again, hard enough to make him dizzy. "Damn it," Liar whispered. "I hate this." "I don't," Kalin said. "But I hate that you hate it." Their eyes locked. For a second, Liar wanted to let Kalin kiss him again, just once. But then a knock shattered the moment. Kalin's gaze turned cold in an instant. "What?" A guard's voice came from the door. "Alpha, Sir Halric was seen near the private medical archives earlier today. He left suddenly when approached." Kalin's brow furrowed. "Medical archives?" Liar blinked. "Wait, isn't that where the doctor—" "Yes," Kalin said grimly, "where she keeps records, including pregnancy reports." Somewhere else in the palace, Halric paced his quarters like a trapped dog. That brat, that little Omega, how dare he show up and steal the Alpha King? It all made sense now. The sudden dismissal, the king's overprotectiveness, the appointment with the royal doctor. Liar was pregnant, and not just pregnant, but pregnant with the royal heir. Halric's hands clenched into fists. That should have been him. He couldn't get pregnant because he is an alpha, but he'd been loyal, strong, everything an Alpha King could want in a mate. He wasn't about to let some no-name Omega take his place. If the High Council found out the king had mated and impregnated someone without getting ceremonially mated, Liar wouldn't just be in danger, he'd be erased. At the chambers, Kalin paced like a caged beast. It was night already. His eyes were solely focused on the mouthy Omega lounging barefoot on his couch. And the way he was acting like everything was completely fine. "You're not taking this seriously," Kalin growled. "Howrick is dangerous, and now he knows you are pregnant." Liar rolled his eyes, biting into a fruit. "You're acting like I'm already halfway to being assassinated." "I'm fine. The baby's fine. You need to chill." Kalin turned sharply. "You snuck out earlier. I felt it. It was 10 minutes. I just wanted some fresh non-royal air. It's not like I was out dancing in the streets in a bikini." "You weren't supposed to leave the palace," Kalin snapped. "You're not my dad," Liar shot back. "I'm your mate." That made Liar freeze mid-bite. Their eyes locked. Liar placed the peach down slowly. "Don't pull the mate card on me when you've barely even admitted you like me." Kalin stepped forward, voice low. "You think this is about liking you?" Liar's face flushed, but he quickly stood and turned his back. "This is exactly why I need a break." He stormed into the bathroom and slammed the door. Kalin sighed and rubbed his temples. Later that night, Liar sat on the edge of the bed once Kalin had gone to a late council meeting. "I can take care of myself," he muttered to himself, slipping his shoes on and throwing a hooded cloak over his shoulders. He carefully opened the chamber doors. 2 guards were posted just outside the main hall, but none noticed him sneaking past the servant halls. Maybe a short walk through the garden would clear his head. He stepped into the cool air, breathing deep. His freedom was cut short when a hand clamped over his mouth. He kicked and thrashed, his heart racing. Another arm wrapped around his stomach tightly. "Quiet, little mate," came a low voice. "Wouldn't want to hurt the royal heir now, would we?" Liar stiffened as he recognized the voice. It was Howrick. He tried to scream, but the night was fast. A thick cloth pressed to his mouth and everything went black. Meanwhile, in the council meeting room, Kalin stood in front of his generals, but his head was pounding. Something was wrong. He could feel the bond between him and Liar weaken as if it was too far away. "Your Majesty," one general asked. Kalin didn't answer. He turned and stormed out of the room and toward his chambers. He could feel that Liar was scared, and not in the palace. He threw open the chamber doors. It was empty. The servant entrance. It was open. "No," Kalin breathed. He growled deep in his throat, voice cold with fury. "Guards," he yelled. Liar stirred awake. His head pounded. His body ached. "Ah," came a voice too close. "You're awake." Liar's eyes fluttered open. The room was dim, stone walls with no windows. He was lying on some makeshift bed. Howrick was sitting casually on a stool a few feet away, sharpening a blade. Liar flinched, instinctively covering his stomach. "Where am I?" he hissed, struggling to sit up. "What do you want? You really don't get it, do you?" Howrick asked, smiling with a madness that sent shivers down Liar's spine. "I've served the king for a long time. I am loyal, strong, his favorite knight. And then you show up, a bratty little Omega with a pretty face." He stood and walked closer. "And now you're carrying his heir." Liar's breathing got heavier. "Stay away from me." "Oh, don't worry," Howrick murmured, tilting his head. "I wouldn't hurt the baby. I just need to remind the king where his loyalties should lie." "You're insane." Suddenly, a sharp cramp hit him. Liar cried out, holding his stomach. Howrick blinked, startled. "What?" Liar doubled over, teeth clenched. His vision blurred again, sweat forming on his brow. "Something's wrong," he gasped. "The baby." Liar's skin was pale. Sweat drenched his hair. His breaths were short and fast. Howrick started pacing. "This wasn't supposed to happen now," he muttered, staring at Liar. Liar tried to curl up, wincing. A loud boom shook the room. The heavy metal door burst open, and there Kalin was, eyes glowing gold. His armor was torn. A trail of unconscious guards behind him. His entire body shook with rage. Howrick didn't even have time to reach for his weapon. Kalin slammed him into the wall with one hand, knocking the breath out of him. "You touched what's mine," Kalin snarled, his voice not fully human. "Now you'll beg for death." He punched Howrick once, twice, and on the third, the knight dropped like a rag doll, unconscious and bleeding. Kalin ran to Liar, dropping to his knees. "Liar, Liar baby, look at me." Liar's eyes fluttered open weakly. He carefully picked Liar up, cradling him close. "I've got you. I've got you now." Moments later, they were at the palace hospital. The royal doctor rushed to stabilize Lyre, giving him fluids and monitoring the pregnancy. Kalin never left his side. He sat there, holding Lyre's hand. The next morning, Lyre woke up and tried to sit up, but his body immediately protested. "You're awake," a low voice said from nearby. "Kalin, of course." Lyre turned his head and there he was, seated beside the bed, still in his torn uniform from the night before, looking exhausted and furious. "Why do you look like you're about to murder someone?" Lyre muttered, voice scratchy. Kalin didn't answer at first. His jaw clenched. "Do you even understand what you did, sneaking out, with our baby inside you?" "I was fine until the psycho knight kidnapped me," Lyre snapped back, glaring. "I can handle myself." "No you can't," Kalin snapped, standing abruptly. "You could have died, Lyre. And I—" He stopped himself, raking a hand through his hair. His voice dropped, raw and low. "I can't lose you, either of you." Lyre blinked. The room felt suddenly too warm. "They said you need strict bed rest," Kalin said more calmly, sitting on the bed's edge. "You're not allowed to get out of bed unless I or the royal doctor say so." "Oh great," Lyre muttered. "So now I'm your prisoner." Kalin's lips twitched, but it wasn't quite a smile. Pretty one though. Lyre narrowed his eyes. "Don't flirt with me. I'm pissed. You're lucky I'm not cuffing you to this bed." Lyre rolled his eyes and tried again to sit up only to groan at the discomfort. Kalin moved instantly, slipping an arm around his back, gently supporting him without saying a word. "Why are you being like this?" Lyre whispered, avoiding his gaze. "Because," Kalin murmured, staring at him. "Because I care, Lyre. You scared me. I thought I was going to lose you. And I—" His voice trailed off. Lyre looked up. "What? I like you, okay?" Kalin said abruptly. "More than I should. And not because of the baby or the bond." Lyre froze. His heart stuttered. "You don't mean that," he said too quickly. "You're just reacting to the bond. It's a chemical thing. You don't even know me." Kalin stared at him like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. The silence between them stretched. Kalin was still close, still holding him. And now Lyre couldn't stop noticing how warm his body was, how firm the arm around his waist felt. "You should lie down," Kalin said softly. "You need to rest. I'll be back." He walked out of the room. A while later, Kalin stood at the top of the royal tower. He escaped. General Varric confirmed behind him, out of breath. Knight Halric slipped through the eastern corridors during the shift change. "We found 2 guards unconscious." Kalin didn't move. He didn't waste any time. Varric continued. "By the time we caught the trail, he was already spreading the story in the merchant district." "The story," Kalin's voice was low, "dangerous. That the Alpha King got an unknown Omega pregnant and is hiding him in the palace." The general winced. "Your Majesty, it's already being shouted in the streets." Kalin cursed under his breath and turned to leave. Lyre was still in bed. He was so sick of this bed. A knock sounded on the door, and before he could call out, Kalin strode in, his face unreadable. "Why do you look like you just strangled someone?" Lyre asked slowly. "I want to," Kalin muttered. Halric escaped. "The whole kingdom knows you're carrying my child." Lyre blinked. "Wait, what?" Kalin rubbed his face. "I plan to announce it publicly, eventually. With your permission, but now the story's out," Lyre whispered. He buried his face in his hands. "Oh gods. Everyone knows I'm the royal Omega incubator." "You're not," Kalin said, stepping forward. "You're my—" He paused. "You're important. More than that. And if the people are going to talk, I want them to hear it from us, together." "You want to announce it publicly?" Lyre asked. "Like, go outside?" Kalin blinked. "Yes." "Oh great. Let's parade me in front of a kingdom." Kalin chuckled. "I'll be beside you the entire time. No one will hurt you." Lyre sighed. "Fine, but I want a cute outfit. And you better hold my hand the whole time." The palace balcony was packed. Every noble, ambassador, and palace official had gathered to see the king's urgent announcement. Then the doors opened, and there were gasps. Lyre stepped out beside Kalin, dressed in flowing royal white robes with gold embroidery hugging his growing belly. He looked terrified, beautiful, but terrified. Kalin took his hand and squeezed gently. "They're staring," Lyre muttered under his breath. "They're in awe." Kalin murmured back. He stepped forward and raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. This is Liar, Kalin announced firmly. He is my chosen mate. And he is carrying the future heir to the throne. The silence cracked. Then the palace square erupted. Some were shocked, some furious, more delighted. And in the chaos, Liar could hear it. And Omega. He's gorgeous. I heard he kicked a knight in the face. I want a royal wedding. Liar turned red. He gripped Kalin's hand tighter. Kalin leaned in, murmuring so only Liar could hear. Told you they'd love you. I hate you, Liar whispered. I look like a walking bread roll. An adorable bread roll. I will smother you in your sleep. Kalin grinned. If there was one thing the people loved more than royal drama, it was a royal love story. And Liar had accidentally become the kingdom's darling. They started calling him Luna without even asking. Children waved when he passed through the palace gardens. Elders sent bundles of herbs and charms for a smooth and strong delivery. Letters poured in from Omegas who felt seen. Liar, for his part, just wanted to crawl under a blanket and disappear. They act like I'm some kind of fairytale prince, he grumbled as he waddled down the hallway. You kind of are, Kalin said blandly, walking beside him. You live in a palace, you're carrying the air. And you've made the cold Alpha King fall in love with you. Liar snorted. You're just saying that because of the mating bond. Kalin paused, something flickering in his gaze. I'd still want you even without the bond, Liar. Liar stopped in his tracks, heat rushing to his cheeks. Shut up, you asked. Still, shut up. 2 months later, Liar's bump had grown fast. Royal babies matured at twice the speed of normal ones, and by the end of the 3rd month, Liar could barely tie his shoes, not that Kalin let him try. The mating bond had strengthened. Liar could feel Kalin's whirring before the king even entered a room. And when Liar smiled, Kalin's whole aura warmed like spring sunlight. He hated how much he liked it. Liar wrapped his arms protectively around his belly, watching it shift as the baby kicked softly. There was a knock. Making Liar blink, Kalin wouldn't knock. The door opened and General Varric entered. He caught him. Liar sat up. Ew, Halric. He was trying to flee, but he's in custody, Varric said. The king wanted you to know immediately. Liar pressed a hand to his stomach. Thank you. As Varric left, Liar stared at the door for a long moment. He had been trying to hide his feelings, tell himself it was just the bond, but when he imagined Kalin hurt, his heart twisted painfully. I'm in trouble, Liar muttered aloud, rubbing his belly. I think I might actually love him. The baby kicked, like it agreed. Later that night, Kalin entered quietly, finding Liar curled up in bed, holding his bump. Liar looked up at him through his lashes. So, about that comment earlier. Kalin arched a brow. You said you'd want me without the bond. That was 2 months ago. But yeah, I would. Liar blushed. Prove it. Kalin blinked. And then Liar grabbed his shirt and pulled him into bed. Kalin hovered above him, trying to keep himself under control. Are you sure? Liar's hand slid under the alpha's shirt. I'm pregnant, not made of glass. Kalin chuckled lowly, but he was still hesitating. Liar leaned up and kissed him. I can handle it, Liar whispered. And when Kalin kissed him back, it felt like the bond hummed with approval. They moved slowly, carefully. Liar was sensitive and needy from the pregnancy. Every touch from Kalin made him melt, and the alpha was gentle, his lips trailing over Liar's skin like he was memorizing it. The next month, since the announcement, Liar had been thrown into a whirlwind of royal attention, namely, Kalin's 2 mothers. Queen Allura and Queen Melis were a striking couple. The first time they visited, they arrived bearing gifts. Liar found himself caught between being nervous and genuinely touched. Eat this, Allura ordered firmly, pressing a steaming cup of herbal tea into Liar's hands. It'll soothe your nerves and the baby. Melis laughed softly. And don't think you can skip your naps, young Omega. Liar smiled awkwardly but couldn't deny the warmth that bloomed in his chest. These powerful women were doting on him like he was their own child. They were lounging comfortably in the palace gardens one bright afternoon when Liar felt a sudden sharp cramp. I think something's happening, he said, clutching his belly. Allura's eyes widened. Liar, are you all right? I think I'm in labor, Liar gasped. Chaos erupted as Melis immediately summoned midwives while Allura helped Liar to the palace hospital. Seconds later, Kalin stormed into the room, breathless. "Baby, you'll be fine," he said soothingly as he reached out to hold Liar's hands. Liar squeezed his hand looking nervous. "Stay with me please." Hours passed like a blur. The palace was quiet except for soft moans and encouragement. Finally, with one last cry that filled the room, Liar gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with eyes that seemed to glow faintly gold, the unmistakable mark of royal blood. "She's perfect," Kalin whispered. Lyra and Melis exchanged proud glances. "You've made us very happy, both of you," Lyra said softly, brushing a stray hair from Liar's damp forehead. The next day, Liar's family arrived at the palace. His parents and sister were full of excitement, but also relieved to see him safe and radiant. His mom hugged him fiercely. "Our little Luna, you've done well." Liar smiled, feeling a new sense of belonging. The palace was quiet that evening. Kalin sat in the rocking chair, gently cradling his daughter in his arms, marveling at her delicate fingers curling around his thumb. Liar laid on the bed nearby, watching quietly. The sight of his baby with his mate made his heart swell. "Kalin," Liar's voice was barely a whisper. The king's eyes met his, an unmistakable look of love in his gaze. Liar took a deep breath, heart pounding. "I'm scared, but I'm also so grateful. For you, for this baby, for everything." He swallowed hard, then dared to say the words that had been tangled in his heart. "I love you, more than just because of the bond. I know I never said it before, but I really do." Kalin's expression flickered to surprise. "I love you to Liar, more than I thought possible." 2 months in, and if anyone asked Kalin how he was doing, his answer was always the same. "I am a king, a ruler of a kingdom, and also a full-time baby servant." The royal nursery was less a room and more a battlefield zone. There were baby wipes, bottles and pacifiers were scattered everywhere. Every morning started the same way. Kalin, already dressed in his royal robes, would emerge from the nursery looking like a tired but determined warrior, and Liar would still be asleep. Kalin was surprisingly good at it all: bottle feeding, lullabies, diaper changes, even the midnight crying fits. Meanwhile, Liar was feeling fine, and a little annoyed. He missed the other kind of attention. Whenever Kalin looked like he might initiate something romantic, the king would pull back whispering, "You need rest, you just had a baby." Liar would huff and give him a pointed look, which only made Kalin's eyes widen in panic. Despite the exhaustion and the chaos, something about this new life was growing on them both. Kalin, the Alpha King, found himself humming lullabies under his breath, while Liar, the stubborn Omega, secretly loved how fiercely protective Kalin was, even if it meant zero spicy moments for now. 3 months into parenthood, Kalin was an expert at diaper changes and lullabies but terrible at resisting Liar's relentless flirting. Kalin avoided Liar at every opportunity, locked himself in the nursery, and even pretended to be busy with endless paperwork. But no matter what, Liar was everywhere. The result? Kalin developed a permanent hard-on. One night, Kalin had just come back from a long meeting, his shoulders tense. He pushed open the door to his royal chambers, fully expecting to collapse into bed. What he got instead was Liar sprawled across that bed, wearing a silk robe that was barely tied and smirking like he was born to be a problem. "Rough day, Your Majesty," Liar purred, sitting up slowly, his robe falling off one shoulder, revealing smooth skin and a cheeky smirk. Kalin paused, closed the door, and very nearly forgot how to breathe. Liar rose from the bed and walked toward him with exaggerated innocence. "I thought I'd help you relax," he said, gently tugging at Kalin's coat. "You've been so tense lately. Maybe I should do something about that, personally." Kalin made a strangled noise that could have been a prayer or a warning. "I really don't think you." He was cut off. Liar whispered, pressing a finger to Kalin's lips. "Don't think, just feel." That was all it took for the alpha to snap. They were kissing, stumbling back toward the bed, Kalin's hands already sliding under the silk as Liar let out a smug little laugh. "You missed me, didn't you?" he teased, licking the alpha's bottom lip. Desperately. Clothes were halfway off. Liar had just wrapped a leg around Kalin's waist, about to whisper something sinfully inappropriate when Kalin suddenly froze, stared down at Liar, and blurted out, "Do you want to get married?" Liar's eyes widened. "What? You heard me." Kalin was completely serious. "Let's get married. You're literally half naked and trying to devour me, and now you want to propose. You started it, Kalin said flatly. This is your fault. Liar rolled off him with a groan and threw a pillow at his face. You want to marry me right now, while I'm trying to seduce you. Exactly. It feels right. Kalin shrugged. What better time to propose than now? Liar stared at him for a long, stunned second. Then he started laughing uncontrollably. You are the worst at timing. I take that as a yes. Liar leaned in, pulled him down by the collar, and kissed him breathless before whispering, You're lucky I love your stupid face. And that's how Liar got engaged while trying to get laid. Very on brand. It was the day of the wedding and Liar didn't stop his seduction. An event attended by nobles, diplomats, and every important face in the kingdom. Liar was dazzling, wearing a flowing gown that seemed designed to tease. He would secretly whisper dirty things to the king's ear every now and then. As the ceremony progressed, Kalin's gaze kept flicking to Liar. His hands were always crossed at the front in an attempt to hide his growing problem. During the speeches, while everyone else was solemn and polite, Kalin was struggling to maintain his composure. The moment the couple exchanged vows, Kalin quietly leaned into Liar, whispering, Enough. Before Liar could react, Kalin pulled him into a heated kiss, right there, in front of everyone. Gasps echoed through the hall. Liar smirked against Kalin's lips. Finally, as the days rolled on, the royal household settled into a new, chaotic normal. Liar continued to flirt relentlessly because some things never change. Kalin, once the cold ruler who commanded armies and kingdoms, was now in charge of daily diaper changes. Their daughter, Aurelia, was the real boss. She'd mastered the art of the cute pout and the I'm adorable son you must obey look at only 6 months old. Kalin surrendered to her demands with a sigh and an exhausted smile. One evening, as Kalin and Liar settled in for some grown-up time, Aurelia decided it was the perfect moment to scream from her bedroom like she was auditioning for an opera. Kalin groaned, We should have hired a guard just for her. Liar laughed, wrapping an arm around the king. In the end, Kalin realized that ruling a kingdom was tough, but trying to keep up with Liar's antics and a demanding baby was the real royal challenge. And honestly, he wouldn't have it any other way. The end.